Okay, the last two videos I laid of groundwork of explaining how PTSD is created and the multi-layers that it is when it's recorded. A lot of coding goes into a record of PTSD, which is basically a severely traumatic event in a short amount of time that has to be programmed into the brain. Okay, so memories are things that happen in the past to tell us what to do in the future. Or we can focus on making a memory to remember a moment. Or memories can be created by external events. And let's say this is your personality and it's always recording in this direction. As it's recording here, it reads down here. Here's the needle that reads your personality that's being written or your record. So these dashes are programs. As your character or personality is being recorded, it has to check, okay, has this ever happened before? Okay, let me run a search back here, tracing. No, it's never happened before. So this is new programming for this event. So it goes into the programming. And let's say it's a plus sign. It records, but it doesn't play until later. It goes around, and then here's that circle cross. That is the TE, traumatic event, that got recorded as program. So now it's hard to tell if it's program or memory, because you're just going around here to where this is going to play. Eventually, this is going to play. It gets pulled up, and it was set in as program. So it tells your brain and body, do all these processes, do all this stuff right now, because this got put in as programming. We look back in time to see if we had programming to pull up for what we should do in this situation, and there's a block with a check. Yes, we do have that programming. So then that programming comes up when it's time to play down here. So the way it programmed itself was that it already had old applicable programming. So now at this point where the character is being written, it's just going to use the old programming. It's just going to pull it right back up and use it. So now this TE is a memory alongside a program, but it's at the same point in time, if that makes sense. So anyway, you get down here also with the proper programming that plays. We got the check block, but then we also have the memory that's going to play also. So it goes up here and it uses that old initial programming that it programmed here. It's playing there now, but there has been a memory added to it. So now it's going to a process that says, play this memory, make these sounds, heart rate increase, breathing increase. These are lungs. So it's saying, hey, we need to do all this stuff now, just from a memory also. But you need to be able to figure out like what your programming should be in separation of what the old programming was that got you through that, and then what the new programming becomes, because this gets a little bit more layered now. You've added a traumatic event to this way to act. So you have to realize that now you have this point on the record, even if you have the old programming. So either way, you have either the old programming with the memory or the new programming with the memory, that at this spot, every time this goes around and it gets to here, it's going to play this every time, and it will be good at playing that. It'll know automatically in this 3 steps of programming leading up to this, it'll go ahead and have subroutines written down to start getting ready to fire this off, because this is a pretty dang big deal. So everything that you're going to experience leading up to whatever that is, like if it rotates around and that's going to come up in your memory as program or memory, can you separate, pause the record, because even when this plays, you're still recording up here. This is always recording your character. So whatever gobbledygook gets played down here and triggered and activated, it gets recorded immediately. So if every year all these compound and get worse and worse, guess what? It works all the way across. See these parts back here that are getting really, really good at preparing for this multi-function event? Well, every time it gets bigger and bigger, now leading up to it, better and better, because it's going to be over there also if it's needed while it's recording. So playing and recording are at the same time, but coordinate with each other. So let's kind of say this down here is where your ego is being read. Like this is the exact moment in time, and it's like, how do we respond? So we're reading from the record, and the record is everything that's happened. Okay. Tracking. So now we need to get to the point of, we know we have a disturbance in the record and we want to change it. We have to keep playing the record, but how do we go in and pick the needle up and it's going to pass by unread? Then you have blank programming now. It's like, what do we do with this programming? Like, it's not being read because the programming is getting done over here in real time. So it's like, okay, what is this going to look for to read? Okay, in this moment in time, I have a script that is planned to get programmed in here as the character's recording for when the needle is meant to hit this PTSD memory event. So it starts programming over here. It just hardcore real time. It's not reiterating any of the old markers or the things that lead up to that event to make it better. Now it's programming in, wait a second, we didn't need to do any of that because it didn't happen this time. Goes around again. Guess what? You pick the needle up, put in your programming in real time on the character out here. Guess what? These items that lead up to it, those neural pathways that prepare everything for this big event, they get weaker and weaker. You go around again, lift it up, show it again, and revalidate that. It's like, looking, what do we do? Oh, I put mine up, and now this is getting programmed in directly in real time. And as these get weaker and weaker, all this gets weaker and weaker. Guess what? Eventually, the way it works is, all this stuff is no longer needed. It's no longer activated and no longer fed, as in it gets no attention whatsoever, and there's no electrical impulses being sent to that. Okay, that's a little bit about PTSD and what it does, and then the next video will be a little more in depth.